Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Today we are going to do the third most important disease of the obstructive lung diseases, and that is the asthma. Many of the times you have heard about that. Many people are talking that this is a season that I'm going to have an asthmatic attack. So people are talking about the asthmatic attack, and sometimes you have heard that patient has the asthmatic. And it is aggravating like anything, like in the pollen season. Many of the times you are hearing that I am allergic to this thing. So I am if this thing comes, I'm going to have a severe asthmatic attack. So today we are going to talk about the asthma, which is the obstructive lung diseases, which is the most important obstructive lung diseases. In our previous lecture, we have discussed the emphysema, and we have discussed the chronic bronchitis, and I have told you that in asthma can be the component of the chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases along with the chronic bronchitis and the emphysema. So starting with the asthma, the most important thing that you have to remember is that it is the chronic inflammatory disorder, and this chronic inflammatory disorder is an of airway, which is going to cause the recurrent episodes of the wheezing, breathlessness, chest tightness, and the most important thing is the cough. So patient is going to present you with the recurrent episodes of the wheeze, breathlessness, along with the chest tightness and the cough, and particularly it is early morning or sometimes at night with the variable bronchoconstriction. But the good thing is that this bronchoconstriction and airflow limitation is reversible. So I have already told you that emphysema, we have discussed that emphysema, it was an irreversible change. But the good components of the asthma is that it is a reversible one, and it is going to be reversible spontaneously or with the treatment. You have seen the patient using the inhalers. We are going to talk about it, and these inhalers are going to cause the reversal of the bronchoconstriction and the airflow limitation. So in your whenever you are going to ask that you have to define the asthma, your definition should include the recurrent episodes of wheezing, breathlessness, chest tightness, cough, and it should include that it is the variable bronchoconstriction, but it is always reversible. So the hallmarks of the asthma are that there will be the increased airway responsiveness to the stimulus. As I have just told you, that patient are going to you, and they are going to tell you that this is the pollen season. That is why. So the pollen is the stimulus, and because of this pollen, they are having the increased airway responsiveness, and because of the increased airway responsiveness, they are going to have an asthmatic attack. So it could be because of the dust. We are going to talk about all of these allergic elements, all of these stimulants in detail in later on. So because of any of the stimulus, there is an increased airway responsiveness, which is going to result in the episodic bronchoconstriction. So first is your stimulus, then there is an increased response of the airway to that stimulus, and because of this increased response, there is a bronchoconstriction. And whenever there is a bronchoconstriction, there is an injury, and there will be the cytokines will be released, inflammatory mediators will be released, so there will be inflammation of the bronchial walls. In order to remove this constriction, you are going to have increase in the mucus glands, so there will be the increased mucus secretion. So all of these things are going to cause the narrowing of the lumen, and this lumen will be narrowed because of the bronchoconstriction, because of the inflammation in the wall, inflammation in the lumen. So it is going to restrict and increase mucus secretion. So the types of the asthma, basically asthma is going to be categorized into the atopic asthma and non-atopic asthma. Subphenotypes of the asthmas are based on the airway inflammation, whether these airway inflammation, the inflammatory mediators are released from which type of cell. It could be eosinophilic type of asthma, it could be neutrophilic type of asthma, it could be mixed inflammatory, and in the chronic diseases, the most important category is also postgranulocytic asthma. So the other third classification could be, it is going to be classified regarding the stimulus or regarding the agent which is going to cause the bronchoconstriction. As I've already told you, it could be seasonal, it could be exercise induced, it could be drug induced, and the most important drug is the aspirin. Occupational asthma, like patients who are related with the mine workers, patients who are related with the drilling process, patients who are related with the people who are related with the some types of barbecue or grilling process, so smoke can initiate the asthma. So asthmatic bronchitis in the smokers is very important, and this element is with the COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases, which we have discussed in our previous lecture, in which the most important component is of chronic bronchitis and emphysema. So asthmatic bronchitis in smokers is with the COPD element. So we have done the three types of classification. Just to have a review, one is atopic and non-atopic, meaning by allergic or non-allergic. Second one is depending upon which type of cells are going to cause this asthmatic reaction, whether it is eosinophilic, whether it is neutrophilic, whether it is mixed inflammatory or postgranulocytic. And the third one is depending upon the agent that is going to cause the bronchoconstriction. And we have discussed in detail about the asthmatic bronchitis and the seasonal and exercise induced. If you are going to see here, allergic asthma in children can be because of the pollen, especially if you are going to have pets in your houses like cats, like dogs, then it could be animal dander. Then dust mites, so the areas where there is no good ventilation, no good sanitary habits, then there could be dust mites, and these can cause the childhood asthma. Then the non-allergic asthma, which we have just talked about, non-atopic asthma, could start in the adults, and it could be because of the chemicals, people working in the labs. It could be because of the cigarette smoke along with the component of the COPD. It could be because of the workers who are having allergic to the harpics and acidic cleaning agents. So cleaning agents can cause asthma in adults. Aspirin, which we have just talked about, drugs related. Cold air, whenever there is a seasonal change, patients are going to have the reversible bronchoconstriction or increased airway responsiveness. Stress related, you have seen some patients that whenever there is some stress or some problem in their life, then they are experiencing their airway bronchoconstriction. Then we could have chest infections, especially along with the pneumonias. There can be a component of the asthma. Then exercise induced, we have just talked about. Then preservatives, so this is very important. And the last one, sometimes in the laughter, patient can go into the asthmatic attack. So first of all, we are going to talk about the atopic asthma. Basically, atopic asthma, as I've just told you, that atopic asthma is allergic, so it is IgE mediated reaction. It could be triggered by the environmental allergens such as dust, pollen, animal dander, which we have just talked about, or the food particles, like many of the peoples have shrimps allergy, many of the peoples have seafood allergies, so peanuts allergy. So many of the people are allergic to these elements, so they can have the atopic asthma because of this food item. Then there could be have a positive family history in these patients of the atopic asthma. If you are going to have a skin test and the offending agent, whether the offending agent is a pollen, whether the offending agent is an animal dander, whether it's a dust particle, whether it's some wheat or food particle, if we are going to apply that antigen in the skin, there is an immediate wheal and flare reaction. So this will be the positive skin test, and the most important test that we are already doing is the RAST. So RAST is also being done in the atopic asthma. Now we are going to discuss about the non-atopic asthmas. So non-atopic asthmas, the most important ones are the respiratory infections. Patients having the viral infections like flu infection, flu virus. So they can be. It's very common to have a non-atopic asthma in these patients because of any hyper irritability, because of anything like COPD element if is there. It can cause the increased responsiveness in the bronchial tree, and this can be the main reason of the asthma along with the other factors. Then we could have a virus-induced inflammation of the respiratory mucosa. So it is going to cause the lower threshold of the subepithelial vagal receptors to irritants, and because there is a lower threshold of the subepithelial vagal receptors, so there will be the increased responsiveness to the stimulus, so there will be the asthmatic reaction. Then we are talking about the drug-induced asthma, and I have given you the example of the aspirin. What is aspirin is going to do? That is going to inhibit your COX pathway, cyclooxygenase pathway of the arachidonic acid metabolism, and this is not going to affect your lipooxygenase pathway. So this is going to shift the balance, tipping the balance towards the liberation of the bronchoconstrictor leukotrienes. So there will be the more leukotrienes in the bronchiolar regions because there is a shifting of the pathway as there is an inhibition of the cyclooxygenase arachidonic acid metabolites. So we are not going to have arachidonic acid metabolites, and we are having the more of the leukotrienes. So whenever you are going to have more leukotrienes, the balance is shifting towards the bronchoconstrictors. So when you are not having bronchodilators, there will be the bronchoconstrictions. So another most important thing that we have talked about is the occupational asthma. As I've already told you, the people who are participating in anything like in plastic industry, epoxy or resins, wood or cotton or platinum, like in organic and chemical dust, people who are related with the mining industries, people who are related with the gas industries, so toluene gas is mainly very important. People who are related with the chemicals like formaldehyde, histopathologists, people who are working in our labs, people who are working in parlors. So formaldehyde is normally used in the parlors for keratin based therapies, for straightening of the hairs. Then chemicals like penicillin product, people who are in the pharmaceutical industries are more commonly affected by the occupational asthma. The underlying mechanism varies according to the stimulus, and it could be because of the type 1 type of reaction. I have just told you in the IgE mediated type of reactions. It could be direct liberation of the bronchoconstrictor substances, or it could be hyper responsive attitude of the bronchiolar tree to the some of these agents. If we are going to talk about the pathogenesis, this is very important, because in your university question you have been given an question that you have to tell about the pathogenesis of the asthma. So first of all, the etiological factors in atopic asthmas are basically related to the type 1 hypersensitivity reaction, and it could be exposure to the environmental agents which we have just talked about. And in some patients we have, as I've already told you, that there is a positive family history. So whenever there is a positive family history, there is an inheritance of the susceptible genes which is making individuals prone to develop strong Th2 reactions against the environmental reaction. So whenever there is a strong reaction from the body, the patient is more susceptible to have an atopic asthma. If you are going to see here, the above diagram is of the normal airway, and in this normal airway you can see here that there is a mucus lining. Here you have a mucus, here you have an epithelium, then you have basement membrane underneath the epithelium, then you have a lamina propria, underneath the basement membrane, this is whole of your lamina propria. Then underneath the lamina propria you have a smooth muscle layer. Here you can see such a beautiful layer of a smooth muscles, and then underneath this we are having the glands, mucus glands. These are your mucus glands, these are your mucus glands, and underneath this we are having the cartilage of the airways. So what is going to happen in asthma? If histologically we are going to see here, you can see here this is the mucus, and if you are going to compare in from the upperward, this is much more thicker layer of the epithelium along with the mucus. And here you can see these are your goblet cells, these cup like cells are your goblet cells. So more of the goblet cells in your epithelium which were not there previously. If you are going to see here in this mucus, you are having the eosinophils which are responsible for the IgE mediated response. Underneath this, basement membrane is also thickened because of their reactions, and here you can see along with that in your lamina propria, which is almost clear in the normal airway, we are having the increased number of the macrophages, and we are having the vessels are also increased because of the congestions, and there is a smooth muscle hyperplasia. In above you can see there's a very beautiful layer of the smooth muscle, where you have a hyperplastic smooth muscle layers, and underneath that we have an increased glands. Here you can see lots of mucus glands and other glands are there. So because of this we are having the inflammatory cells in your lamina propria, macrophages, eosinophils, neutrophils, lymphocytes, CD4. As I've already told you, patients who are genetically prone to that have an increased numbers of the lymphocyte, CD4 or T helper cells too in the lamina propria. If you are going to see how this whole reaction is going to happen, how histologically these whole changes are going to happen, first of all you're going to have a pollen or any agent or any like dandruff of the animal from the animal skin. It could be a food particle or anything, any antigen, and it is going to cause a reaction by the dendritic cell which is present here in your respiratory epithelium, and because of that this is going to activate your T cell receptors on your T helper 2 cells, and this is going to release the interleukin 4. This interleukin 4 are going to cause the increased production of the B cells, and as you all know that this B cell is going to produce the IgE antibodies, and this IgE antibodies is going to react with the mast cells, and these mast cells have Fc receptor where this IgE is going to form the bond, and then the whole cascade will be open. So because of this there will be the increased increased vascular permeability because of the reaction of the IgE and the mast cell. There will be the increase in the vagal afferent nerve responsiveness, and also there will be the increased vascular permeability, and eosinophils will be more there. Second most important thing that is going to happen by this mast cells is that it is going to secrete the IL-5, and this IL-5 is going to recruit the eosinophils. Here you can see that eosinophil is there, and this eosinophil is again going to cause more IgE production. So eosinophil is going to cause the release of the granules and the mediators, and these mediators are also going to cause the eosinophilic cations, which are going to release your all the proteases and cathepsinases, and so there will be the inflammatory reactions, and because of this we are going to have increase in the production of the inflammatory cells and eosinophilic cationic proteins, and these are going to activate these eosinophils, these basophils are going to cause the damage in your epithelium. So there will be the increased mucus production by the goblet cells. And my dear students, just remember this, like whenever there is a pollen, there is a responsiveness of the T helper cell, which is going to cause the increase in the mast cells, and mast cell is going to release the IL-5. But this epithelium is also going to release the eotoxins, and this eotoxins are going to release the more eosinophilic recruitment, and these are going to cause the granules and the mediator response. And later on, what is going to happen is, in the later phase, that you are going to have a totally destructive phase, which is going to cause the bronchoconstriction by the vagus nerve. So you are having the vagus constriction, and you are having the increase in the hyperplasia of the smooth muscle cells, and you are having the more vessels, congestion of the vessels, and from these vessels you are having the release of the eosinophils, neutrophils, basophils, and these are all going to cause the release of more granules and the mediators, which is going to be destructive to the respiratory epithelium and your bronchiolar tree. So mediators in the pathogenesis of the asthmas are, which play a very important role in the pharmacological interventions, are leukotriene, C4, D4, E4, and acetylcholine. So these are your putative mediators, which plays an important role in the bronchospasm. Then agents which are going to cause a potent asthma-like effect, but its actual role in acute allergic asthmas is much minor than these leukotrienes, are the histamines, prostaglandin D2, and platelet activating factors, or PAF. Then there are agents whose specific antagonists or inhibitors are still not available, and these are going to be much more important in causing the activation of the asthmatic attacks. These include the cytokines, in which we have interleukin-1, TNF, IL-6, which we are having the chemokines like eotoxins, which are going to cause the, I have just told you about the eosinophils recruitment, and this is responsible, this eotoxin is responsible for the eosinophilic recruitment. Then we have neuropeptides, we have nitric oxide, we have bradykinins, and we have endothelin, which is going to release from your endothelium and causing the constriction. Then the most important thing that we are going to talk about is the airway remodeling. I've just told you that because of these all inflammatory changes, because of the hyperresponsiveness of the bronchiolar tree, there will be the 5 things which are most important in the airway remodeling, and these includes hypertrophy or hyperplasia of the bronchial smooth muscles. There will be the epithelial injury. There is an increased airway vascularity, increased subepithelial mucous gland hypertrophy or hyperplasia, and there will be the deposition of the subepithelial collagen. And I've shown you all of these in your picture. As you have seen that the bronchiolar smooth muscles are going to be hyperplastic, epithelial wall has epithelial cells have been injured and they have been replaced by the mucus cells or the goblet cells. Increased vascular permeability, and these are going to recruit the more basophils, more eosinophils, more inflammatory cells. Then we are having mucous glands hyperplasia and the deposition of the subepithelial collagen. If we go back to our diagram, this B diagram is showing you the airway remodeling. Here you can see increase in the mucus, increase in your smooth muscle cell, increase in your glands, increase in your vessels wall, so increase in the vascular congestion, increase in your cells, inflammatory cells, which are your mast cells, eosinophils, lymphocytes, macrophages. So this whole increase, and there is a destruction of your epithelium, and this is the replacement of by the goblet cell. So these things are very important in the airway remodeling. If we are going to talk about the genetics of the asthmas, the polymorphisms are present in the individual cells, and these are located at the chromosome number 5q near the gene clustering, which is responsible for the encoding of the cytokines like interleukin-3, IL-4, IL-5, IL-9, IL-13, and IL-4 receptors. And then we have receptors for the CD14 and beta adrenergic receptors at the chromosome 5. And as you all know that these cytokines are responsible for the inflammatory mediators and the recruitment of the cells. So these are going to cause your activation of the asthma. Then we have class 2 HLA, which is also very important in the genetics of the asthma. Then ADAM33 has an important role in the genetics of the asthma, and YKL40 has also an important role. So morphology, if we are going to talk about the morphology of the lungs in the asthma, your lungs will be over distended because, as I've just told you, there will be the over inflation, and there will be some areas showing the atelectasis also. And then we have occlusion of the bronchi and the bronchioles by the thick mucous plugs, as I've just shown you. Then histologically we are having two more important things which are called as Krushman spirals and Charcot-Leyden crystals, which are or numerous eosinophils in this. If you are going to see these Krushman spirals, these are your Krushman spirals. These are coiled basophilic plugs of the mucus, and these can be seen in the patient's sputum and the tracheal washing. These are all your spiral type of basophilic of spirals. And if we are going to talk about eosinophilic needle-shaped crystals, these are all your needle-shaped crystals. Here you can see Charcot-Leyden crystals. So these crystals are seen in the biopsy of these patients and also in the sputum. So again, the picture of the airway remodeling, if you can see here, there is an sub-basement fibrosis is there. Here, this is your epithelium. Underneath your epithelium, you have having the basement membrane, and this basement membrane, underneath this basement membrane, you are having the fibrosis. This is whole of the fibrosis. Then there is an increased vascular permeability. These red areas are showing you the increased vascular permeability. Then we have the increased number of the submucosal glands and the mucous metaplasia of the airway epithelium. Here you can see these are your all mucus cells. These are all your goblet cells, and we are having the increased number of the mucus glands in the submucosal region. Then there will be the hypertrophy or hyperplasia of the smooth muscle cells. So this is the whole of the smooth muscle cell hyperplasia. Here you can see this is the hyperplastic area of the smooth muscle of the bronchiolar walls. And one thing is very, very important, my dear children. This whole underneath the epithelium, you are having the inflammatory cell in this area. Here you can see lots of inflammatory cells, eosinophils, basophils, and macrophages are there. So this is your normal lumen. Here you can see this is very much normal lumen of your bronchiolar epithelium, and the lumen is very much intact. But here there is an asthma patient, we are having the increased mucus secretion. There is a increased mucus secretion. Bluish color is showing you the increased mucus secretion by the goblet cell. Here you can see how much smooth muscle cells have been hyperplastic in this, and here the smooth muscles have a very beautiful small layer, and here there is a hyperplasia of the smooth muscle layer. Then we are having also the submucosal glandular hyperplasia here. So all of this is going to cause the airway remodeling in the asthmatic patients. So the clinical features include chest tightness. As I already told you in the definition of the asthma, there is a chest tightness, there is a dyspnea, there is a wheeze, and there is a cough. And in some patient, the patient can go into the status asthmaticus, which is a severe acute paroxysm which is going to persist for days and even weeks, and there is a severe airflow obstruction, and sometimes it can cause death also. Because of this airflow obstruction, patient is going to present you with the cyanosis. So this status asthmaticus is an emergency condition, so patient should be treated immediately in an emergency. as far as the diagnosis is concerned, there is an increase in the airflow obstruction from the baseline level. There is a difficulty with the exhalation, so we are going to have a prolonged expiration and patient is going to present you with the wheeze. We are having the elevated eosinophilic counts in the peripheral blood, and as I already told you that in the sputum we are having the eosinophils, we could have Cushman spirals, and we could have Charcot-Leyden crystals. So I just want to have a summary of this. Whenever you are going to have a histamine release because of some stimulus, there will be the bronchospasm, and because of the bronchospasm there is also the edema of the bronchiolar mucosa because your congestion, there is a vascular congestion, increased secretions from your goblets, increased secretion from your mucus gland, gases are going to be trapped in the alveoli, so there will be the reduced ventilation, hyperinflation of the lungs can be seen, and because there will be the expiration, there is a problem in the expiration, so there will be the shortness of the breath, there will be the wheeze, and the patient is going to present you with the cough. So today's your assignment is you just have to tell me about the airway remodeling, and you have to give me the 5 major important things that are going to happen in the airway remodeling in the asthmatic patient.